Benchmark organizational design, structure, and change presentation. My name is Latice Townsend. I am presenting this PowerPoint to the Coangelo College of Business, Grand Canyon University for Management 605 Leadership and Organization, Dr. Kathleen Shriver, on November 29th, 2023. This presentation can also be found on my YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/@ Everyday with April 4695. Okay, the organization that I chose to focus on for a major change or suggested change is Duval County Public Schools. DCPS is a public school district that serves family and children in the urban and suburban and rural areas. Duval County Public Schools, also known as DCPS, is the 20th largest school district in the United States and the sixth largest in Florida. Our district was founded in 1864, and the headquarters is located in Jacksonville, Florida. And DCPS covers about 918 square miles. Duval County is considered to be, or Duval County Public Schools is considered to be an above average public school district. We service 128,948 students from grades pre-K up to 12th grade. Our student teacher ratio is about 22 to 1. According to state test scores, about 46% of our students are at least proficient in math, and 45% are proficient in reading. Okay, so the major issue that was identified, I thought back to the pandemic in 2020, where everything closed, and at a certain point here in Florida, we were discussing reopening latter part of 2020, but at that time, before that time, everything was closed. There was nothing put in place for such a situation as our pandemic. So because of that, I identified that major issue as a lack of innovativeness. Because there was nothing in place, and our district could really use a creative way to approach learning and teaching during that time. So we know that innovativeness is the ability to create new things using imagination and skill. It also means the ability to think and act independently. And this is in reference to a gentleman last name by the name of Tyson's. And this is the 2022 publication. Please see my references. The district also, in attempt to meet the need of this huge deficit during 2020, and even post that time. This was a little time after the pandemic. There were lots of laptop devices given out to the children, and so with lots of brainstorming during that critical time, crunch time, there was a digital launch of Duval Homeroom. But one of the biggest issues with Duval Homeroom was the school district's remote learning platform. Okay, um, about 25% of our students who chose to remotely learn during that time could not sign in to class. So, according to Duval County Public Schools, Microsoft Teams had resolved the issues, but still students were experiencing issues with signing in. Within the Microsoft Teams platform, students were expected to deliver teachers were expected to deliver meaningful virtual lessons, but often were faced with uh, login issues, lack of student attendance, lack of student engagement, and no student accountability. Again, a huge deficit that I believe that we were most definitely not prepared for, and even post pandemic is still a focal point where there needs to be some creativity when it comes to our approach to learning and teaching. So once again, our current organizational structure is brick and mortar. Um, Pre-pandemic and even post, where we do face-to-face instruction. During the time of the pandemic, when Duval County Public Schools were released to go back to school, they were given different schedules. Elementary school students who opted to return to in-person learning was given 5 days a week, whereas older students they were given the option of 4 to 2 days a week, and of course, the remaining days they would learn remotely at their home, depending on the grade. Okay, with that option, a lot of parents were relieved just with the thought of that option. But there was an issue there because teachers were not given that same flexibility. And this is where our organizational structure began. Um, is stated here, it was or it has been decided, or it was decided that teachers would return back to work 5 days a week, which was normal. Teachers had to find this out after the fact, and a lot of teachers took to social media expressing how surprised they were. They were insulted. And, they were happy that the families and their students were given the option of flexible learning, but they would have wished to have that same option to teach safely from their home. A lot of teachers during that time um, had a lot of health issues, and even post pandemic, a lot of teachers have left the profession because of that lack of flexibility and their need to be safe and having their own health issues. So, ramifications of this particular issue, we know ramifications are the consequences or effects of a decision or action, and it can most definitely be intended or unintended. It can be positive or negative, but here they are. The ramifications for the lack of innovativeness, teacher shortage, teachers that were parents as well, they struggled to meet their own personal needs as well as their professional needs. Um, there were overcrowded classrooms with teacher shortages. More students entered in the classroom where there was a live body there to watch the kids, not necessarily qualified, but just a person that could supervise the behavior. So a lot of classes were overcrowded, and if there was a teacher that was there, again, an overcrowded room. Unfulfilled curriculums were neglected because of lack of expertise of certified teachers. Teachers, again, having their own health scares, own personal needs, opted to leave the classroom because of this issue. Unmet student needs. There were students that did not have their needs met completely because, again, of teacher shortage and due to unqualified personnel. Additionally, substitute teachers during the pandemic and even post have now is very scarce. A lot of teachers that are able to do brick and mortar return back to class actually sub in other classes when other teachers are out. Again, which becomes a burden to teachers when there are no available subs. Again, ramifications for the lack of innovativeness that um, not having anything in place to help situations such as this. Students schedule for unnecessary classes because of lack of teachers or shortage of teachers. If there was a teacher, sometimes students were scheduled for classes they did not necessarily need because of the limited availability of teachers and coverage, gaps in student knowledge, fundamentals were not taught properly. And then lack of student growth. Growth will be lessened due to lack of qualified personnel. Okay, so plans to manage these challenges, which is suggested the digital approach to learning is a primary way to apply innovativeness to our schools. Digital learning models are often student-centered, collaborative, and engaging. I have some examples here of some digital learning models that can be employed in the classroom. Again, once again, these are references. Please see my reference. Um, as to where this information came from. The flip model, which reverses the lecture and homework method in class. The rotational model, where learners rotate between different modalities. Gracious. Flex model, which is a significant autonomy where students have control over their own learning path. And then enrich virtual models, which are online learning with periodic face-to-face instruction. All right, so again, a system for the suggested change. We know that blended learning combines the best of two training environments: traditional face-to-face learning and e-learning, to meet the evolving needs of modern learning. And that's the focal point of this suggested change. Okay. Once again, the flip model, and I'm going in just in detail there, just briefly. The flip model is traditional classroom instruction is inverted. Learners first encounter the instructional content outside the class, typically through video lectures, readings, or online modules. Then in class, time is dedicated to active learning activities, discussions, group projects, and excuse me, and exercises that reinforce and apply what was pre-learned. The flip model. Okay, in the rotational model, learners rotate between different learning modalities, such as face-to-face instruction, online activities, small group discussions, and independent study. These rotations can be on fixed schedules or based on learners' progress. It offers flexibility and caters various learning styles, allowing employees to work in the modality that best suits their needs at a particular time. Again, this is another suggested change to our traditional set of method of learning and teaching. The third one is the flex model. The flex model provides learners with significant autonomy and they have the control over their learning path. It combines online learning with in person support as needed. Okay. Number four, enriched virtual model. The enriched virtual model is primarily online experience with, again, with periodic face-to-face sessions. Most of the learning occurs in a virtual environment, but learners attend physical classes, workshops, and designated times for hands-on activities, assessments, and collaborative projects. So our improvement plan was based off the Carter's um, change model, where we first create a sense of urgency. Again, this was created during the pandemic, where there was nothing in place, no learning taking place, no teaching taking place, and so there was a change for our education system to drastically enforce many families to seek alternative forms of education. Number two, I will form a guided coalition. We need principals, teachers, parents, the IT department, all together. We're all together. We're all in this as one, and this creates our conscious culture where we have a purpose and we trust our purpose. Our purpose is to get learning and teaching deployed at whatever situation our world face today, that learning and teaching can still take place. So that this particular strategy does embody the conscious culture where where we're working together, we're trusting each other, we're building respect within within our work and interaction with each other, all for a purpose of getting our children, our students educated. Um, Number three, create a strategic vision. Once again, blended learning combines the best of two worlds: the traditional face to face and the e learning. Initiate change communication. We already are using Class Dojo, or we're using Class Dojo and Blooms as a communication platform. Again, these things are digital and they're already in place. Okay, number five, remove barriers to change. Reassure parents that students will not lack or lose knowledge learning at home. Increase technology. Resolve insufficiencies with our Microsoft Teams platform. Number six, generate short-term wins. Use quarterly benchmark assessments to monitor student growth and monitor parental guidance. All is needed. Number seven, make changes on a continuous process. Don't be complacent. Small growth needs to be continuous. Benchmarks need to become cumulative to ensure that retention is being obtained. And lastly, on our change model, incorporate changes in the organizational culture. Again, this is our new norm. It's good enough. It works. Again, it creates and welcomes conscious culture where our work is meaningful. We have a purpose. Our purpose is to get our students educated and learning in any situation today. Okay, so in conclusion, our team is strong and well organized with people who want to serve our students and support them. This approach to learning and teaching our students does embody all the principles of the conscious culture because our efforts will produce purpose and dignity in our students. It will give our communities a sense of respect for each other because we are better together. When we come together for one cause to help our students, dignity, respect, and care is produced. So one community at a time. Each family was impacted by the pandemic different and they have their own reasons for adopting and adapting to this new way of learning for our students, for their child and or children. Every member of our team has solid ideas and can work together thanks to balancing and us pushing together to better each other. And with this passion and drive, the project of the digital launch will most definitely be successful and student growth will soar. Thank you for your time.